Hello and welcome back to Panzer Campaigns Sicily 43. I'm your host Pew Choo Choo, and last time we took a look at the tutorial for this game. Today we're going to be playing a small-sized scenario where we can hopefully demonstrate and use the concepts learned inside the tutorial. So I've chosen the scenario titled Truscott's First Real Clash here, and what this deals with is the expansion of the Allied beachheads once they've landed on Sicily. With that kind of said, our objectives for today is to take a few towns and villages from the Germans and the Italians, and these victory locations are marked with the flags here. So you see here that in Palama di Montichiaro we have a Italian coastal defense coin defending a 100-point victory location, and up along this road we also have another one at Nero, and we also have a huge village which is actually worth 145 points at Kanikati, and a few miscellaneous ones along the edges of our troops over here. So all our objectives really revolve around taking out enemies, trying to minimize our losses, and taking these locations. We're currently playing as the Americans, marked with the green on green icons. Our enemies are the Italians, marked with the icons with the yellow backgrounds, and the Germans marked with the gray backgrounds here. So currently let us begin playing, let us begin moving our troops forward here. We have quite a lot of units, and we have, where in theory we should have more than enough might to take on the enemy. It'll more or less be a race of time, seeing as how we only have 9 turns to accomplish our objectives here. So with that said, let us press forward here and let's try to take a few of the villages. Actually, before I start, I should note that you do sort of need to know NATO symbols to properly play this game, meaning that you do need to know that these boxes with X's in them, they represent infantry, although on the side panel here, the side panel will list off quite a lot of vital information, so you can probably tell that these are infantry units, judging by the picture of the little man right there. Anyhow, we're going to advance, meaning that we're going to start moving our troops forward, and we're really just going to try to sandwich and isolate the town, including all of the people inside, and really just try to eliminate them like that. Because of the time constraints here, what I'm going to do is that because there are a lot of bridges or a lot of rivers in the way, I'm going to get the troops inside the back here, and I'm going to set them onto the travel mode, meaning that they'll be geared up to travel rather than fight, and that's represented by this little white bar under the unit counter. All I'm trying to do is all I want to do is just get all you guys to move forward, and I'll get the mortars to start to shell the enemy by a little bit. And you'll see here that the losses appear, and the enemy looks like they took roughly 2 or 3 losses, but they took some. All I'm going to do here is that I'm just going to move from one side of the bulkhead over here towards the other side, and I'm just going to move all of my units as we kind of go counter or clockwise. We're going to go clockwise through this. So we have another stock of units here, and you may have noticed that we have also HQ units present, and what these are is that command and control is simulated inside this game, so we have different formations of units. Currently the stuff that are highlighted here is units part of the 30th Infantry Regiment, which so happens to be part of the 3rd Infantry Division. So all the units with bright green icons, where the bright green, inside filling color, are part of the 3rd Infantry Division. And in the center here, we actually have some armored units, part of the 2nd Armored Division here. So these colors are fairly important in noting what units we have. So what we're going to do here is that we're going to get the 30th Infantry Division or Infantry Regiment to push forward here, and all we're going to do is get them to move forwards towards the town of Nero here. Because we've got a lot of troops, all we're going to do is just try to move them forward and really get them moving like that. I've turned off Fog of War so then we can see the AI's moves and how it reacts to our actions, but this does give us the advantage in that we can see what the enemy is up to. You can probably tell that the Italians aren't, well, they don't have a lot of troops on the front lines, definitely not a lot of troops protecting those objectives, so that should be fairly easy, although pushing into the German positions here might be a little more difficult. So, what I expect will happen, and it did happen historically, was that the Germans put up quite a lot of a fight here at Kanikati, and they managed to delay the Allies for quite a bit of time. On the other hand, the Italians sort of just melted away. So what we're going to do here is that we're going to try to lock up a lot of the enemy units, and we're just going to pin them down to their current locations. And what I mean by that is that we're going to get our units to move right next to them, and hopefully they'll pose more of a threat to the Germans than our force moving towards Kanikati. Meaning that if we're able to stall up those forces, we may be able to make the AI divert some of the forces going to Kanikati to the troops over here. I'm gonna get all of these troops to move forward. Some of the troops inside the rear here, I'll switch to travel mode and I'll move them forward. And I'll get the armored division, because they're the heavy hitters, to move towards the actual town. So, like again, we need our guys to move fast, and all I'm just going to do here is just put them into travel mode and get them to burn towards the town at their maximum speed. One thing that we should note is that the German troops present inside Kanikati are currently all fixed, meaning that they can't move. So this will give the AI, or this will give the attacker a little bit of time to move their troops close to here without actually having to engage in some of the bitter fighting for those villages. And likewise over here, we're just going to do the same thing. Get our little squad of recon tanks here to move forward, and the infantry here to move forwards as well. Now, all I'm doing is that I'm just going to switch the map filter on, and you may have noticed already that I'm doing this, but I'm going to switch up a few map filters to help us out. This particular one gives us a approximation of the movement radius of our troops, so that's what we're going to use that one for. Over here, I'm going to switch some more of our armored units to moved, and you'll see here that we also have a few units that are fixed, so these cannot move, and I guess I'll just keep them where they are currently. And I'll move some of the artillery and some of the anti-tank guns forward as well. But the vast majority of them are just going to stay where they are here. So with that done, that is pretty much our first turn. So we'll let the AI take its turn. So we'll save the game right here, and we'll see what the AI does. Now, the AI is currently on fast AI processing, so as you can see here, its actions are fairly quick. They're not necessarily all too important, meaning that we don't necessarily need to pay very close attention to them, but I noticed a few things as we were progressing through the turns. Excuse me. One of the things that we have done in our time here is we managed to disrupt the enemy's defenders inside this particular town. So, over the course of the battle, certain things will happen to our troops, and those things will show up as little banners right here. So, during the AI's turn, we managed to return fire at the defenders of this town, and we did a little bit of damage. But because of the poor quality of the coastal defense, or the Italian troops in general here, you might have noticed that they have a morale rating of usually D or F, with the exception of their artillery. And, well, this is to indicate that these troops aren't very good. They actually have a morale C group of troops here, so that is fairly unique for the Italian troops here. And this is because the morale simulates the troop quality here. So, because of their poor quality, the American troops can disrupt them really rather easily, meaning that they somehow manage to either pin down that group or eliminated its command and control, meaning that it is fairly vulnerable. And one of the things that it's fairly vulnerable to is an assault action like that. We can do two things with our units here. We can either use them to shoot at the enemy, meaning that they'll engage the enemy forces with some of their heavier weaponry in terms of infantry at least, such as the heavy machine guns and the mortars and stuff like that. Or in the case of tanks, well, tanks are they only have cannons and machine guns, so I mean they just fire everything they have. But they will advance and they'll typically shoot with those weapons. The other form of attack is that we can move our troops into the enemy's hex, and that will start up a assault, or a close assault. And what that means is that our troops will try to clear the enemy of that tile, breach individual little houses and really try to sweep through the enemy's lines like that. And because our enemies were disrupted, they routed fairly easily, and now we control this town. So the flag has switched, and we have gained 100 victory points. Although that score may be modified due to our losses and the enemy's losses. So we have this town that is sealed up, and that is, that's pretty good. Over here now, we're going to try to nab narrow, so all I'm going to do is just get our troops to move forwards here. Now, due to the rough climate of Sicily, a lot of this places, if I switch down to the 3D view, you'll see here that there are quite a lot of these vineyards present. They are just the green stuff that grows everywhere. And there's also quite a lot of variation in elevation, meaning that there's a lot of hills here. Moving up and down those is, quite time-consuming, meaning that all of our troops here are going to take quite a while to advance. With that being said, it is even more crucial that we get our guys moving towards Kanikati as fast as we possibly can. Looks like they're starting to reinforce the town, the victory points here. So they're starting to bulk up on those key victory point locations. And all we're going to do is just continue to threaten them and continue to get our troops to advance, like here. All we want to do is just threaten them all along the line, so they'll hopefully spread their troops out a little more. And that is pretty much that. Get our guys to press forward here, and we'll also get them to advance ever further towards the enemy. And you can see here that the mobilized, the mechanized troops here with the tanks and half-tracks, they move much faster than the regular troops. So all of our guys are currently just committed to the front. Let's take a look at how many troops that we've moved. So all of this side has moved, and all of the other stuff is really just over here. And it looks like the Italians are giving ground over here, so that is a good thing. We'll just continue to chase after them. And we'll check on some of the units that we have fixed here. And it doesn't look like they are unfixed yet, so we will just wait for a little bit. Alright, so all of our troops are moving. We've taken one objective already, so we'll go forwards with this and move forward. Enemy's going to move their troops, things are going to happen, but for the most part the losses are light and things are going well. Might take a few losses here and there, but nothing should be seriously bad or anything. Alright, so not yet another turn. Our troops here have advanced. We're going to get them to do a bit more of a general advance, so they're going to push further over here. And let's try to take narrow away from the Italians. So we're going to get our infantry units to try to fire in there, and we're going to try to disrupt the enemies because it makes assaulting them much easier. It doesn't look like we've done that just yet, so we're going to go for an assault anyways, just simply due to the fact that we have quite a lot of troops compared to theirs. So during this panel, this assault status panel here, you'll see here that we have an attack value of 216 and they have 29, meaning that we have however many people here, so we have 216 men. They have more than 29, but one of the things that's happening right here is that because they are troops of a lower quality, they have a modifier stacked on them, so it takes a little bit away from their numbers. Either way, it should help us, and we should be able to press right through them, just like that. So I'm going to get our troops to move forward once again. As we get closer to the front, I take our troops outside of travel mode, and with that said, just move forward. We take our troops outside of travel mode so they won't be as vulnerable to enemy fire, and we'll try to fire back now at the Germans inside the town of Kanikati here. Get our guys to advance some more, and we'll bring up some more troops here. Yeah, these mechanized troops move really, really fast. Tons of troop movements here. So you see here that I'm leaving the vast majority of the HQs and some of the other stuff really rather unattended to, and that's because we don't necessarily need to mess with them right now. Gonna get our guys to try to have a decent front established, and gonna make another assault here, and we're going to try to take this location from the Italian defenders. Now, because this group of troops are low on ammo, they don't count as much in terms of the attack value calculations, so they're probably not going to do as much damage, like I said. So they're still advancing. Over here, the Italians are giving up more ground, and we will follow them, and we'll try to actually encircle this unit and try to eliminate it next turn, but for now, this is all we can do. Over here, there's actually one victory location that's sort of hidden at the very side of the map, and this is to sort of just simulate the linking up of the two beach landings. So this particular landing location at Lakita is technically Joss Beach. It was what they would have called it during the invasion. And the Americans also landed at another beach, somewhere southwest or southeast of here, at Dime Beach. So as soon as we link up our troops by just sort of moving into that hex, we do gain some victory points, just for symbolic sake. Have our troops moved here, our tanks are moving, everything is good, and I don't feel like we need to do any more actions. Rather do less actions than more if possible. So we're just going to wait, see what the enemy does, and see what their reactions are. So yeah, as you can see here, the losses do tally up. You can slow the turn resolution down, but for our purposes, I mean, the losses don't really matter in the short term unless you see troops being destroyed. There we go. Over here, we've actually encircled an enemy unit. So this group of 25 men should be encircled. And what that means is that they're isolated from the rest of their troops, or their supply lines in a sense. Your troops provide a zone of control right around whatever counter that you have, and because we've surrounded this particular unit with this zone of control, we've effectively surrounded them, and we should be able to eliminate them in the turns to come. In the meantime, it looks like our troops over here, to the north of this particular town, are also being seem to be almost isolated by the Germans. So we'll move one of these battalions to help them out. Alright, so continuing our advance on to Kanikati, I'm going to get our troops to adjust slightly, so then we'll have one group of infantry, a third of a battalion, or I suppose a company, to block off this road here. It looks like the German AI has started a counterattack in Narrow, and has also been moving quite a lot of its infantry. So we have 2 stacks of infantry, and they're just centered inside this 300 point hex. So they're definitely stacking up their men. Likewise, we'll do the same thing by moving our troops here. Get these troops to shoot at the defenders of this 150 point hex. And here we're just going to call our artillery into the field, into the fray really. So we have a few artillery guns set up here. Some of them can reach here, and some of them can't. This is the ranges for the 39th and the 9th Field Artillery Battery. So everything inside this range they can hit, and they still happen to be just in range of the 2 targets here. So we'll get them to lay down 4 barrages of, or technically just 2 barrages of guns onto this particular hex, and that's going to do a little bit of damage. It's not going to disrupt the enemy, but it's going to do a little bit. And, well, that is their drill. Unfortunately, the vast majority of artillery just simply don't reach the front lines, and if we move them, they're not going to be able to fire anyways, so we're not going to bother. We're just going to keep them present there. Anyhow, we really don't need to do that many movements now, so we're going to get our tanks to advance through those obstacles. It's going to take them a full turn, but that shouldn't be that big of a problem. But anyhow, they're just going to move forward. Get our infantry to come up here as well. Should be able to eliminate this group of infantry. Almost. And we'll just continue our general advance forward here. It's mainly going to be a race of time. We're definitely going to try to beat the time limit and definitely capture Kanikati here before the time limit runs out. And that is, that is really our main goal over here. So while they're doing that, we're going to move some more troops forward, get these guys up to the front line, and I think that's pretty much it. So that will be the end of another turn, and when we come back, we will, well, push ever further here.